Okay, guys, I'm back here. All right, we're going to start talking about the Islamic world. So, the rise of Islam and early Islamic empires. Okay, so that would be, why does it never scroll like I want it to? That would be the Umayyad Empire and the Abbasid Empire, the Mali and Ghana empires, the Seljuk empires. Okay, we're going to briefly touch on those. I'm not going to go over every single thing in here because there is a lot of stuff. Okay, so Islam, it's super important. It's the second largest religion in the world today. It would be remiss of me not to share it with you guys and to show you guys some of its important. Okay, so second largest religion in the world today. Okay, its beginnings can be traced back to Muhammad. Okay, well, he's very well known as the final prophet of Allah. Okay, he was born in a city called Mecca, which is the most holy city in the Islamic world. Okay, people make pilgrimage, try and make at least one pilgrimage or Hajj there once in their lifetime. Okay, so this Muhammad, he was orphaned at a young age. He grew up. Um, he, I think he had a wife and children. He sold he sold goods. I think he was a pretty decent merchant. Okay, but there was one point in his time that he got that he I can't remember exactly why. It's in the readings here, but he goes out to a cave to meditate on life and think about things, right? And he gets visited by and this is how the story goes. This is how the belief goes. He got visited by the angel Gabriel, okay? And Gabriel gave him revelations through God. Okay, those are eventually going to be written down in the holy book, the Quran. Okay, you guys see that there? It's weird red circle, the Quran. Okay, um, Islam is a monotheistic religion, one God. Okay, one God. All right. So let's look at what Islam is. Okay, it's a super important religion. It's going to have some massive effects all over Africa, Northern Africa, especially Asia, India, China, okay, Europe. So there's five important aspects of Islam, known as the five pillars of Islam. Okay, the first pillar, okay, is belief. Okay, and this has to do with the belief in monotheism, in the belief that there is only one God. Okay, now in pre-Islamic period, before Islam came about, there was idols, there was all different kinds of gods. People had a god for every minute of the day, just about. All right. So when Islam comes along, and Islam doesn't come along for a long time, let's see, the years like 615 CE, right? That's 600 years after Christianity. That's thousands of years after Judaism and Hinduism. So this is a brand new religion, brand new. Okay. So the first pillar is belief in one God, monotheistic religion. This is not 100% new for the region because Christianity had spread. However, um, it is a little newer in the Middle Eastern area. Okay, Christianity didn't spread quite in that direction as much. Okay, the second pillar is prayer. Okay, and this is considered a daily ritual. Followers perform 5 times a day, and it's known as Salah. Now, it's one of the neatest things I've ever seen in Afghanistan and Iraq and in Kosovo, Bosnia. They had these towers, minarets, and they announced the daily prayer. The people would get down and pray. It was pretty cool. I wholeheartedly, hope you guys get a chance to witness it. You don't have to believe it. I'm not telling you that, but to watch it, it's a neat thing to see. The third pillar is charity, okay, which pertains more to the morality of giving to the poor. It's super important to give to the poor, right? The word for charity is sadaqah, and it means righteousness, right? If you give to the poor, you're going to be righteous, okay? The fourth pillar is fasting, and this tradition occurs during the time of Ramadan. For a month, Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset, only eating before the break of dawn and during night. Fasting is not only abstaining from food, but also from sinful behavior in general, which includes the things that are listed here. Okay? So, not just food, but sinful behavior. And that's the fourth pillar. The fifth pillar is the Hajj, right? The pilgrimage. I might have put a little short video in here. Let's see what we got. Oh, my video is not going to work, is it? How sad. I might not have fast enough internet for it to work. Anyway, if you click on the link, which I have embedded in the notes and shared with you guys, you'll be able to see what the Hajj is about. Okay, and there's all kinds of actually really good videos. It's not easy for a person to get a video camera into Mecca. Okay, I believe you have to get special permissions because I think it's illegal. All right, so that's a little bit about Islam. Okay, Muhammad's the first ruler. He makes the first holy site in Mecca. Okay, they believe in Abraham and Moses. They believe those are prophets from God. They believe Jesus was a prophet from God. Okay, Muhammad ruled actually in a pretty good way. He didn't like go around just killing people who didn't believe what he believed. He was actually a pretty tolerant dude for the most part. Now he did make some taxes and things like that that you had to pay if you weren't a Muslim. But if you paid him, it was okay. It was cool. Okay. After he died, well, here's the problem, right? You got a ruler. He's a good ruler. If he dies, in order for success to happen, you've got to pick someone to rule after you. You have to. Okay. He didn't do that. So there's all kinds of issues. Okay. So you get, in a few years' time, you get different rulers called caliphs. Okay. The first one was Abu Bakr. He ruled for a whole year. Okay. There's some wars that take place across the entire Arabian Peninsula. So if you look at a map, the Arabian Peninsula is right here. Okay. I should make this bigger. Let's see, open image in a new tab. That's what I'll do. That way you can see, here is the Arabian Peninsula right here. Okay. Eventually, he's going to die, and this gentleman named Umar is going to take over. Okay. He is one of the most influential Muslim caliphs. Okay. Close acquaintance of Muhammad, distinguished as a juror or jurist because of his fair nature. Right. Very fair. That's good. If you're someone who's trying different people, you want to make sure that you're fair. Right. He's going to lead for a while. Then after he dies, this guy named Uthman is going to become the ruler. He's going to expand the empire into present-day Iran and Afghanistan. So, right, he's going to take, from here, he's going to extend into here and over into here. Okay. And then Ali would be the last of the Rashidun Caliphate. Okay. And then the Umayyad Empire is going to take over. Okay. The Umayyads. And they're going to do all kinds of things. Okay. They're going to have fights with the Byzantine Empire. And remember, the Byzantine Empire is the eastern half of the Roman Empire, the half that didn't fall. It was only the western half of the empire that fell. Okay. But they're going to try and lay siege. Do you guys know what siege means? No? Yes. I'm going to assume no because no one's answering me. You can't because this is not a live video. So a siege is when you basically surround a city and you try and starve them out. Okay. Well, the problem with surrounding Constantinople is part of it is on land and part of it's in the water, and they've got excellent defenses. And keeping someone at bay on the water is not an easy thing. Okay. So they had super easy access to water, which is really the way they were still able to get things in and out of the. And so you can't really starve someone out that way. Okay. All right. Anyway, there there's going to be all kinds of battles between um, the Umayyads and the Byzantines. Okay, and it's going to create all kinds of tension between the Islamic world and that part of the European world for a long time. Okay, eventually the Umayyads are going to spread all the way over to Spain. Okay, in the Battle of Tours in 732, they're going to cross the Strait of Gibraltar, which is all the way over here off the screen, and they're going to come up here into southern France, and they're going, or excuse me, southern Spain. I apologize, and do some conquering. Take France out of your mind; it was southern Spain. Okay. There's a whole bunch of information here about the Umayyads. Okay, but what's important? Let me see here. Let me get to some important things here. One of the things that's important is during this time period is when you're going to have a split between um, beliefs, Islamic beliefs. You're going to get a split of people, Islamic people that are Shia of the Shia belief and people of the Sunni belief. Okay, um, the Shia are composed of Islamic followers of this guy named Husayan because he was a direct, true descendant of Ali, or it's believed that he was a direct, true descendant of Ali. The Sunni were different. They didn't agree with the Umayyad rule, but they accepted Umayyads as rulers or caliphates. Okay, they didn't have a problem with someone else being that wasn't Muhammad's descendant. They didn't have a problem with someone else ruling. Okay, and the Shia are a smaller group of people. Okay, the Sunni a big group, Shia a smaller group, right? And right here, here's the division. So you guys can read about that. Okay. However, because of this civil war, so this is all the territory that the Umayyads had conquered. Check that out. That's huge. Look at that. Spain, Northern Africa, Egypt, parts of Egypt at least, all this area, just a skosh of Europe. Well, actually, not quite into Europe. Right here is the Continental Divide. Okay. So, um, however, the civil war between the Sunnis and Shia is going to cause weakness, right? As civil wars tend to do. And it's going to allow the Abbasids to come in and take over. Okay. And that's the next group we're going to discuss, the Abbasids. Okay. We're going to just discuss a little bit about each of these. All right. The Abbasids are going to use propaganda, and they're going to do that to win over support of Shia Arabs and Persians. Okay. And Persians, okay, check this out. Persians are modern day Iranians. I don't know if you knew that, but they are. It's pretty cool that Persians still exist. In fact, a lot of them still call themselves Persians, and they speak the Persian language or Farsi. Okay, pretty neat that something that's that old is still around and spoken and things like that. Um, Eventually, the Abbasids are going to outnumber and outskill, or actually, excuse me, they're outnumbered and outskilled. However, they're going to defeat the Umayyads, and that's because of the civil war. Okay. And they're going to continue to expand the Muslim empire. This stuff, yeah, it's good. This you need to read through all this, but there's some things I do want to get in here. Okay, now under the Abbasids, the Muslim empire does become more tolerant to cultures of territories they conquered. Okay, um, This is completely different than the Umayyads. The Umayyads were not completely tolerant. All right. So the Abbasid Empire was welcoming to different cultures. Okay. This is partly because of the increase of intermarriage amongst people with different backgrounds, right? Like maybe a Jew with an Islamic person or something of that nature. Okay. Politically and economically, anyone, regardless of their ethnicity, could hold military and political offices. Didn't matter who you were. Okay. Equal opportunity was important to these folks. Okay. Equal opportunity. Judges, merchants, government officials were ideal citizens. So this is a shift from the previous empires that actually their importance was on warriors. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. The Umayyads were the ones who expanded the empire the most, the Muslim empire. It would make sense in my mind, and maybe not in yours, but it makes sense in my mind that they would put more of an importance on warriors, um, just because they needed them. They needed them to push out and to take more land, right? Okay. The golden age of Islam is going to take place, though, under the Abbasids, which is who we're talking about now. Okay. Invention, they're going to come up with things like the magnifying glass, come up with mills, um, grand libraries are going to be constructed during this time. And the goal of those was to translate everything that was Greek into Arabic. Okay. Very important because it saves a lot of texts that might otherwise have been destroyed. Okay. There's more civil wars though, because of course, the last of the caliphs didn't choose. He didn't say one or other of his sons could lead. He left them both in charge. And of course, there's a civil war, right? Crazy. So we're gonna jump away from the Abbasids for a minute. And we're gonna go over to a couple empires in um, in Africa. Okay, Mali is one of them, and Ghana is the other one. Mansa Musa is the leader of one of them, but we're not going to get into him at the moment. Okay. So the Ghana Empire is, darn it, I had this. I should have a link in here. I sure thought I did. Sure that I had a picture of it. Apparently I'm wrong. Doggone it. Okay. I'm going to pull it up. I think it's important for you to see. Okay. So the Ghana Empire, which I spelled incorrectly. Here's a picture. You can see where it's located. Here's Africa right here, part of Africa. This is the Ghana Empire. Okay. Now, what they don't show you on here is that there's a couple important rivers that flow through. They might show it on this one. A couple rivers that flow through this area. Okay. There's the Senegal River and there's the Niger River. Okay. Super important. Okay. If you're going from up here down to here so that you can get your goods from Europe to Southern Africa, which is all the way, down here. Okay. You need those rivers to transport your goods. Super important. Even if you wanted to get them down here so you could get to the Congo River and carry stuff over here a lot easier. Okay. So this is how the Ghana and Mali empires made their dough. Okay. Not only did they have access to rich resources, which you'll read about, but they controlled the rivers and became what are called brokers. Okay. So you would bring your stuff, your trade goods to the Ghanese empire or the Malis or to the Mali empire. And for a fee, they would take your stuff to the next place, right? They're brokers. Hey, we'll get your goods to the place where they need to go, right? They controlled the rivers. They could get paid the dough, right? They had the money. And they got paid the money. Okay. So super important, super important. Okay. The other thing that super helped them become rich was camels. Using camels, right? Just like at the beginning of agriculture, the agricultural revolution, when people were like, "Oh, dude, these large beasts of burden could help us plow our fields or could carry our goods somewhere else." They're figuring this out about camels, right? They're a super hardy animal. What's important about camels? They they can hold water forever, right? They can sustain themselves for a long period of time. And why is that important where they are? Let's look at this again. They're in the desert, right? What's this giant desert called? The Sahara Desert. So camels are going to become extremely important. They're hardy beasts. They can carry a whole bunch of stuff, to include people, over long distances with little water. Okay, very important. All right. So controlling the rivers and those things, right? So they would take gold, salt, ivory, and slaves from Muslim merchants that are headed south, and horses, cloth, swords, and books that came from the North Africans and Europeans. Okay, and they would take those all over the place for them. Eventually, the Ghana Empire is going to fall, and the Mali Empire is going to come about. Okay, this is where you're going to hear about this dude Mansa Musa. Okay, Mansa Musa was, I don't know, he wanted to travel and learn. Right, education was super important to him for himself. He's going to learn later on that it's important for the whole kingdom, right? As he travels, he's going to travel to Egypt, he's going to travel to Arabia, all over the place. And he is going to spend money like it's going out of style, gold specifically. Okay. He spent so much gold in Egypt that the value of gold dropped by 20% in the short period of time that he was there. Okay. Now, super important though that he went out, not for the inflation part. He learned a lot about the educational systems in Arabia. Okay. Learned about the importance of educating your people. Learned about the architecture, how to improve architecture, right? Learned all these things. And he didn't just keep them to himself. He took them back to the Mali Empire and helped them to prosper for at least another century or so. Okay. Now, he didn't himself, but what he passed on did. Okay. And so those two empires became super important. They were also Islamic powerhouses in Africa. Okay. So those are going to be some really important centers of trade um, during the time period. Eventually, they're going to fall because they do not keep up technologically or otherwise. So now we're going to jump back to the Islamic empires, although you could consider in ways Mali and Ghana Islamic empires because they were ruled by people who had converted to Islam. Okay, but we're going to come back to now the Seljuk Empire, which is going to take place of the Abbasids. Okay, these guys are going to get even bigger than the Umayyads and the Abbasids. Okay, however, so here's their look at this. I mean, they push all the way. They get some of Greece. So they're going to push all the way. They're taking a lot. Turkey, okay. They were very much like the Persians. A lot of intermarrying, a lot of diversification in their empire, which you could also say is a lot like Alexander the Great. Okay, um, they loved art, they loved education. Um, they built a lot of things out of stone, so they're still around. Some pretty good stone. Um, Muslims, Christians, and Jews all lived together and could freely practice their religion without consequence. Okay, kind of like kind of like what we have in the United States. People typically aren't physically persecuted for practicing their own religions here. Okay, there are obviously instances where it happens, and there is definitely you know um, some hate between different religions, but for the most part, freedom of religion, right? Um, Eventually, though, too, they are going to weaken, okay, and they are going to fall. So I want you to read about that. Okay, so that's just a brief overview of the Islamic Empire. You've got the Umayyads, the Abbasids, the Seljuks that were really the conquerors of little parts of Europe, um, the Middle East, Northern Africa. Had massive influence on Mali and Ghana in Africa, which are just on that, um, right over here in the, I don't know what this part's called, the hump of Africa, I suppose. Um, Maybe the ear of Africa, but massive influence all throughout here as well. So, uh, educationally wise, architecturally wise, arts, library, as far as recording literature. So, very important group of people. Second largest religion today. Um, yeah. So, what I'd like you to do, trying to answer those questions. If you use the ebook. I'm not even kidding you. The ebook's got all the answers. Um, if you can, please get onto the Certel website and read the ebook through there, because they actually have some good videos that go along with the material. So, and it's pretty good stuff to watch. All right. I will talk to you guys on Wednesday, or email me if you have questions. The assignment is on Google Classroom. Let's get out there and kick some butt. Talk to you later.